Okay, so we're starting 11.3, and that's where we're going to divide polynomials. So there's a few ways I'm going to show you how to divide a polynomial. First way is when you're dividing just by a monomial, which means one term. You can divide each term in the polynomial by that one monomial. It's like the distributive property. You're going to distribute the division to each term. And then you can simplify. So 3 will go into 9 3 times, and the x squared will cancel 2 of those. And we're left with 3x. That x squared will cancel that x squared, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. This x will cancel one of those, and this 3 will go into this 15 5 times, and we're left with 5 over x. Here's a few for you to practice on doing it that way. I'll do A with you, and then you can do B and C to check and see if you know what you're doing. So what you're going to do is distribute that 2a squared, and you're going to divide each term by it. So that's going to be 4a to the third over 2a squared plus 10a squared over 2a squared. Plus 3a over 2a squared. That's going to cancel and leave 1a, and 2 will go into 4 2 times, so that's going to be 2a. The a squareds cancel, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. And a cancels one of those, and I'm left with 3 over 2a. Forgot my plus sign. So that's A, and if you'll pause it and try to do B and C, I'll put the answers up in just a second. Alright, so here are your answers for B and C. Hopefully you got them right. Okay, so it's going to get just a little bit more difficult right here with example 2. We're going to divide a polynomial by a binomial. So first I want to talk about the different parts of a division problem, because I'm going to use these words and I want you to know what I'm saying. The dividend is divided by the divisor. Okay, and the answer we get is called a quotient. So what you're going to do is take the divisor, what you're dividing by, and you're going to put it in front of the long division sign. Sometimes people call it the division house. So it's going to be d plus 3, and you're going to do a division house, or the long division symbol, and then you're going to put the dividend beneath it. So it's going to be 3d squared minus 4d plus 13. Okay, when you do this, you take the first term and you divide it into the first term. So you ask yourself, how many times will d go into 3d squared? And if you wrote it out and did scratch work over here, you would see that when you divide, you get 3d. You got to kind of call on your long division skills here, because remember, now you've got to multiply and write it beneath. So 3d times d is 3d squared, and 3d times 3 is 9d. Then you subtract. And here you got to remember to subtract everything, so you're going to distribute the subtraction sign. Those cancel, and this comes down, and you get negative 13d. And then you bring down the plus 13. And how many times will d, so now you have to divide again, how many times will d go into negative 13? The answer is negative 13 times, and still you're going to take that, multiply, write it beneath it, subtract. So negative 13 times d is going to be negative 13d minus 13. Not 13, just kidding. 13 times 3 is 39, so it's going to be minus 39. Now you have to subtract, and in this case we're going to add, because when you subtract you add the opposite, and the opposite of that would be plus. That cancels, and I'm left with 13 plus 39, which is going to be 2, carry the 1, is 5, 52. So I take my remainder and I put it over the divisor. So it's going to be plus 52 over d plus 3. So my answer from all of this work is going to be 3d minus 13 plus 52 over d plus 3. So I'm sure you definitely need another one to practice. I'm going to show you another one. You're going to take the divisor and you're going to write it in front. So this is going to be m plus 1. Write the long division bar. Now you're going to ask yourself, how many times will m go into 2m to the second? So you can write it out over to the side if you need to. And you'll see that the m cancels 1m and I'm left with 2m. Now you multiply 2m times the whole divisor. So 2m times m is going to be 2m squared. Times 1 is going to be 2m. Now you're going to subtract everything. That cancels, and I'm left with negative 3m. Bring down the negative 3. Now how many times will m go into negative 3m? And if you need to, again, do some scratch work. The m's cancel, and I'm left with negative 3, so I know it's going to be negative 3. I want you to multiply the negative 3 times the whole divisor. That gives me negative 3m minus negative 3. Now subtract. So if I subtract all of it, I'm going to add the opposite. So the opposite is going to be plus and plus. That cancels, and I get negative 3 plus 3 is 0. So while I can put 0 over m plus 1, I know that that's just going to be 0, so I don't have to. So my answer for all of this division is 2m minus 3. Now, here's a little hint for later. If you don't have a remainder, like here, I have a remainder of 0. If I don't have a remainder, that means that this is a factor of that. These two binomials that I have created are factors of 2m squared minus m minus 3. Okay, there's always little tricks that you have to watch out for. One of them is when you have a 0 coefficient, which means when you have a missing term. So here's a word problem. It says the width of W of a rectangle is 3z minus 1. The area is 18z to the third minus 8z plus 2. What's the expression for the length of the rectangle? So if you need to, I want you to draw a picture. Width is 3z minus 1. Area is 18z to the third minus 8z plus 2. What's the expression for the length? Well, since you know the area equals length times width, then you know that this times something is my area. So if I divide, I'll get whatever I'm missing. So I'm going to divide 18z to the third minus 8z plus 2 by 3z minus 1. So I'm going to write it in the box, 3z minus 1, and then 18z to the third. Now this is what I mean by 0 coefficient. You see how the exponent goes from the third to the first, and I missed the z squared? You cannot leave it out. Every single term has to be accounted for. So if I have z to the third, I have to have a z squared. And if I don't have one, I'm going to have to put a placeholder in, and we'll put a 0 coefficient there. So now, once you do that, you do the long division like you have. So how many times will 3z go into 18z to the third? How about 6z squared? And then when you multiply, you get 18z to the third minus 6z squared. So subtract, and that's going to cancel, and I get 6z squared. How many times will 3z go into 6z squared? How about 2z times? And that gives me 6z squared minus 2z. I forgot to bring down the 8z. Subtract, and I'm left with negative 6z plus 2. How many times will 3z go into negative 6z? Negative 2 times. And I'm left with negative 6z plus 2. If I subtract, they all cancel and I don't have a remainder. So my length is what I got for my quotient. 6z squared plus 2z minus 2. Okay, I want you to try this one on your own, but I will tell you that there is a 0 coefficient, and it's going to be to the third power, so you're going to put 0, you can put a 1 in front of those, 0 to the third, and that's going to be 1q squared plus 1q minus 3 divided by 1q minus 1. Try that on your own, and then I'll give you the answer in just a second. Okay, there's your answer. Hopefully you got it right. Okay, last little trick I have to show you is when they don't put the terms in order for you. So your exponents have to be in descending order. That's called standard form. We've gone over it before. They have to be in that form for you to do long division. So if they're not, what I want you to do is rewrite it. So we got to rewrite both of these because they're not in the right order. So this is going to come first. Got to be 4x squared minus 10x minus 1. Do not forget that the sign that's in front of the term goes with it. And it's going to be positive 2x minus 3. And now if I don't have any missing terms, any 0 coefficients, I can go ahead and put it in long division form. Okay, and then we're going to long divide. So how many times will 2x go into 4x squared? How about 2x times? You multiply, you should get the same thing. And then 2x times negative 3 is negative 6x. Add the opposite. And I get negative 4x minus 1. How many times will 2x go into negative 4x? How about negative 2 times? I get negative 4x plus 6. Add the opposite, and I get negative 7. So my remainder is negative 7 over 2x minus 3. So my answer is 2x minus 2 minus 7 over 2x minus 3. Okay, I want you to reorder this one and try to do it on your own, and I'll give you the correct answer in just a second. Okay, there's your right answer. Hopefully you got it right. That's the end of the video. If you need me, you know how to contact me. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. Make sure you know it because you got a homework quiz coming.